Hello and thanks for joining me as we take a look behind the scenes of COP26 in Glasgow. The event is the biggest ever held in the UK and occupies a large site either side of the River Clyde. There are two main areas. The blue zone is where the negotiations are taking place. Each country or territory has a pavilion where they showcase what they are doing on climate change. There's also a programme of official fringe events that take place within the blue zone. On the other side of the river is the green zone. This is the public-facing area with organisations exhibiting or hosting events to get their climate change message to a wider audience. COP26 has already been delayed by a year thanks to COVID. The virus hasn't gone away, so how are we staying safe? Masks and negative lateral flow tests are mandatory, although you can of course remove your mask to eat or talk to a camera. Handshakes are few and sanitiser stations are all around. How are the talks going so far? Well, actually, in some ways better than expected. More than 100 world leaders, including Brazil, have promised to end and reverse deforestation by 2030 in the first major deal of the climate summit. Earlier today, as I crossed the bridge between the green and the blue zones, I bumped into Malcolm Turnbull, the former Prime Minister of Australia, and grabbed him for a quick chat. Can you tell me what brings you to COP26 this week?
Well, I'm here talking about the crisis within the energy crisis.
Do you think the talks in Glasgow are going to actually deliver on what was promised in Paris all those years ago?
Well, I hope so. This will not be as momentous as Paris because, of course, Paris came after the catastrophe of Copenhagen. There's already a number of countries, including my own, regrettably, who have not made sufficient improvements in their national determined contributions. In fact, Australia hasn't increased it at all. But I think generally you're seeing real action. Also really pleased to see the agreement to address deforestation. Of course, agreeing is one thing, doing is another. But you know, the forests of the earth, particularly the rainforests, are the lungs of the earth.
At the heart of all these discussions and decisions lies the science. And for the first time ever, there is a Science Pavilion in the blue zone at COP. I met Peter Stott, a climate scientist who leads the climate attribution team at the Hadley Centre, to find out more.
This is very exciting, yes. This is the first ever Science Pavilion at COP, presenting the science to the policymakers who have come here from around the world to reach new global agreements on climate change. We need action now. We need action over the next very few years to keep this dream of 1.5 degrees Celsius alive. In other words, to maintain and restore our beautiful planet, as Sir David Attenborough talks about.
Tuesday marks the second and final day of the World Leaders Summit. After that is when the real work begins, and that means detailed negotiations on reducing emissions, restoring vital habitats, adapting to extreme weather events, and increasing the provision of support to developing countries. Over the next 2 weeks, we will find out if Glasgow can deliver what Paris promised.